Hey, welcome to the Danger Zone. It's Ashley.
Everything in this video was found on a public domain.
Lots of love and many blessings your way. If you hang around long enough, I kid you not, you guys, the truth always comes out. Now it's being said that there was this meeting that was supposed to happen between Meghan and Charles privately. They say he wanted to sit down and discuss the rift between the brothers. At the very last minute, Meghan canceled, didn't show up. You know, it's now being said that Harry acts really insecure and jealous when Meghan gets around his dad or his brother. Right after their engagement interview, it was told to me that Meghan had actually told Harry that somebody close to him had propositioned her, but she wouldn't say who. Now, I totally dismissed that back then, and I'm not saying it happened, but knowing what we know now, I'm pretty sure Meghan did tell Harry that. Just another isolation and control tactic by Meghan. Now I'm hearing that's a big part of the rift, how it got started. Harry not only confronted William and Charles about this, but he had talked to some staff members as well. And that totally makes sense to me. I personally spent nearly a decade in an abusive, controlling relationship. My ex knew that I was super close with my aunt, and he told me while I was away visiting my mom that my aunt had propositioned him. And I was so hurt and confused. And I believed him. He was one of those passive-aggressive types, a control freak to the core. And if you find yourself in any sort of an abusive relationship, I know it's scary hopping out of it, I really do. Especially if you have children. Just know that if you don't even have friends and family, there's loads of resources that can and will help you. You are so valuable, and you're worth happiness and respect. And you will get through the hard times, I promise. Here's a number you can call or even text in the event you just need to talk to somebody. They'll also help you with resources. This goes for both men and women. Talk about gender equality, huh? Now, getting back to what we were talking about. The only reason I don't feel sorry for Harry is because I believe they set out to modernize the monarchy, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The Queen had a hand in that. Someone had sent me a leak that had been out since 2015, where it talked about how the Queen was pressing Harry to marry a woman of color, just to modernize the monarchy. And I totally believe that happened. They just didn't realize what they were getting themselves into. When little Miss Meghan found out, she and her buddies struck while the iron was hot, that's all. Now, we've talked about in the past how deep this runs. Getting back to the Charles and William and Prince Harry situation, Prince Charles made a very eerie statement. He recently said that he's worrying over Harry like he used to over Diana. According to a royal insider, yesterday, the family have been talking about the possibility of hospitalization for Harry. And that's what William was talking about when he mentioned his brother was fragile. Yesterday, Samantha Markle had an interview with Inside Edition. I personally think Samantha is beautiful, and I love her personality. I can't help it. She's saying everything that everybody's thinking. How can this overprivileged couple cry about their situation? And Meghan crying over the fact that nobody's asking if she's okay. She's not living, she's merely existing, she's not thriving. Which, by the way, it was pointed out to me that this, what Meghan said, is just a dissected and chopped up, rearranged version of what Maya Angelou wrote. No originality. It drives me crazy. I agree with what Samantha said. Boo-hoo for Meghan and Harry. Especially Meghan. She didn't call her dad after her dad had not one but 2 heart attacks. We're talking somebody that raised her and gave $1 million lottery winning over to her education. And the man still volunteers as a lighting director for her old school to this day. So pathetic, so disrespectful. She's such a shame. Candace Owens stood up right after Wendy Williams did. My hat's off to her, much respect. And she said it best. How dare these 2 overprivileged people use South Africa as a backdrop the poverty, the crime, just to cry about their situation in the royal family. Give me a break. Harry and his mama issues drive me bonkers. She said that Meghan was a witch and she had Harry under her spell. Totally agree. Now, get what I'm about to tell you is gonna floor you to the core. Several online publications and rag mags have been contacted by Meghan and Harry's PR. They're trying to proposition these online publications and rag mags to pick up this story, which totally explains why everybody has recently come out in the defense of Meghan and Harry, talking about how they single-handedly modernized the monarchy. And the story they're trying to sell is this: Harry and Meghan would make far better rulers than William or Charles, and that it needed to be highly considered to jump over Charles and William until George is a grown man, assigning the task over to Harry and of course Meghan, which proves they're on something and have lost their mind to it. Okay, remember when they were in Morocco and he was joking around with Meghan during that interview and he asked, "Is it mine?" What kind of thing is that to say when you're already going through scrutiny as you're crying about? You don't joke like that in front of people. And if I had been sitting next to him wearing this ridiculous fake bump, I would have accidentally had to elbow him in his mouth. Here's what's going on now. Some of the guys that were working like behind the scenes for the documentary that they just made in South Africa are now saying that while Harry was just kind of talking candidly on a friendly level, sort of venting, he let slip that he was unable to have children. And he basically begged these people not to mention anything after he let that slip. Let's face it, they were both all over the place. So I don't doubt he had a slip of the tongue. At one point, during the South Africa stuff, he was going to his car and was asked a question by some media lady. And he totally barked at her and said, "I don't know. Ask her." Everybody's talking about their erratic behavior while they were over in South Africa using them. Getting back to Harry's insecurity, Meghan went and spoke with a bunch of young future leaders on gender equality. Harry ended up taking her to this roundtable discussion and it was so pitiful. They had to arrive in his Audi e-tron GT. Oh, such a sad life. I feel like I've talked enough, but let me tell you what pisses me off if you want to know the truth. And then I'll get back on track. They just left South Africa, where farmers are being killed, young people are being slaughtered, kids are starving, don't have a dang pencil to write with, reading out of old books at school. Lucky to probably have a bowl of rice in a day, honestly. She baits out one bag of used baby clothes up to 4 or 5 months old. He plants one damn dead tree. They literally did not one thing to benefit anybody in South Africa but themselves. I feel like I'm a broken record by now, but if you're going to sit in a position like that where you can do so much for so many, then do it. I don't want to hear your speech. I'd rather see you feed children. If you're going to give something away, make it count. These people in South Africa, they came through for Meghan and Harry. That they were being used the entire time. Most of the people that they interacted with in South Africa have not much to look forward to. To hear her cry that nobody's asked if she's okay, and to hear him cry over the fact that he just hates royal life, that just grates on me to the core, you guys. I knew they were shysters, but this South African trip for me has made my mind completely up. There's no way on God's green earth that they're parents. If you can sit down and read a book with a child in rags, huddle dance with a bunch of hungry people, and see the poverty, especially in the children around you, and do nothing but complain about your own life, while your pockets are so weighted down with money you can't hardly walk, not even try to make a real difference for the kids if nobody else. Don't try to convince people that you're new parents. You should have a natural empathy and compassion, especially for the hungry and pitiful children. That should kick in only because your mind reverts back to your own child that you want the best for. I'm just angry about it, y'all. I just can't help it. All right, let's get back on track. Insecure Harry, or H as we know him now, is now so codependent, so clingy, so obviously fragile, that he ended up going with her to this gender equality roundtable meeting, where she ended up copying somebody else's style, of course, because she has no clue who she is, showing up in a near $800 Hugo Boss leather skirt because she's a vegan, and a humanitarian and all, that the Queen of Spain just recently wore. What is she trying to say? Think about it. She shows up in purple, the regal color, and now dressing as the Queen of Spain does. She is most definitely sending a message to the Queen. She was so disappointed that she couldn't go by herself that she had to make an excuse. She said, in terms of gender equality, which I have championed for several years, well, the conversation can't happen without men involved. So for this reason, I felt it made complete sense for him to join us. Thank you for letting him crash the party. Can't even use Harry's name. Wow. Prince Charles recently took a huge chunk of Harry's inheritance away. Throughout the years, Charles took taxpayers' money and he redone Harewood Park. They say that Prince Charles put bucket loads of cash into this place. This place was meant to be Harry's one day. Prince Charles recently changed the beneficiary of this beautiful place. It no longer goes to Harry. So the bucket loads of cash, thank you taxpayers, that he put into it, fluffing it up for Prince Harry, it no longer goes to him. It is now going to one of the grandchildren. They didn't say who. Now think about this. This is just a prime example of what his future looks like, and it's just the beginning. I really can't wait to see what happens next. I'll see you soon, and we'll talk so much faster, I promise. Y'all please stay safe and be blessed. And I thank everybody who contributes one way or the other to the Danger Zone. The genuine gratitude that I feel is indescribable. Thank you so much.